So you know one of the things I heard the most from my parents when I was in high school? No girlfriend, David. No girlfriend until college. That's right, my parents tried to impose a rule on me because in their minds, they valued education. Notice that they said no girlfriend until college. It's not that they didn't want me to date ever. It's just that they wanted me to get into Harvard first. Because if I got into a good college, that would set the tone for the rest of my life. And that's largely how I view the dating ban. Because potentially, every idol is a seed. Who knows what they can grow up to become? So I totally understand the concept of wanting to limit distractions. Because relationships can be distracting. It adds another completely uncontrollable variable. It adds another third party to the table. And come on, let's be honest. Adolescents and young adults aren't exactly the best decision makers at times. And of course, that's the age range when dealing with idols. Also, I'm not going to say there isn't some sort of investment protection in all this. I don't think idol companies are doing all of this completely out of their good Samaritan hearts. I think they've spent money in training these girls and they want to somehow protect their investment. As a restaurant manager, I've worked with people for a while. And on more than a few occasions, I've spent money to train somebody only to have them leave a month or a week later because they changed their mind or found a better opportunity. But that's only at a restaurant. There's not that much to train. When it comes to the idol world, I think it's a lot more of a commitment. Also, another way I look at the dating ban is like with all girls schools. In the past, and I think even currently now, there are schools that are girls only. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's pretty common for boys in relationships to be disallowed. And again, I think that's a very Asian culture thing. Growing up Chinese, I think I always just kind of accepted it because you look up to your parents and you kind of accept what they say. And I think they have their point. But then also growing up in America, I also saw the other side. I think for the most part, when I see the American side of the argument, or I guess I should probably say reaction, because I always see people react and say, hey, that's a God-given right, the right to relationships. You're obstructing their freedom, which I think comes off as very nonsensical because people are just reacting emotionally to the first thing they can grasp onto. And the response I see from idol fans is usually, well, they signed a contract, which, however true, is not exactly the best explanation. So here's how I would explain it. First of all, idols are minors. Being that they are minors, they cannot enter into an agreement with a company without parental consent. So I don't know how persuasive the company is, or maybe the parents are just complete morons, but they are involved, at least in some way, when signing these contracts. And unfortunately, sometimes there are parents who are willing to use their kids, either for fame or money or living through them vicariously. I mean, I've seen some questionable stuff in Japan, but I've had multiple conversations with Japanese adults who question the parents for allowing their kids to do stuff like that. And at that point, how do you go around policing parenting? I don't think being an idol is bad, but I do think there are traps that the girls can fall into. But having a good relationship with your family and having them take interest in your activities and having them involved in some way alleviates a lot, if not most, of the hazards. Another thing that I'd like to point out is that no one is stopping an idol from dating. It's not like there's a secret police that comes at night and will take you away for breaking the rules. I think idols are totally allowed to date, just not publicly. I think the companies are aware of this and have even helped to try to sweep it under the rug a couple of times. The big thing is you have to keep it kind of private. You can't let it get out. And while some of you may cry foul, here's the example I would use. Let's say you're an elementary school teacher and you really love your porn. It's perfectly legal to watch, provided that the content is legal. But if this information about the teacher ever got out to the parents, I don't think the teacher would be around very long. I mean, he or she is allowed to do it in the privacy of their own home, but it's imperative that this information not get leaked publicly. Because there's a certain moral standard that we expect from our teachers, especially teachers that deal with young children. But believe me, I've played basketball with some people who say the most foul stuff, and later I would find out that they teach at the elementary school nearby. So this is not the most perfect example. Obviously, there are major differences between idols and teachers. I think there's a complete mishmash of why the dating ban exists. Some of them are to protect the idols, some of them are to protect the companies. So we're never going to reach this one perfect explanation for everything. But if you tune in next time, I'm going to talk about why I think the dating ban is there to protect people. Also, I want to talk about why the media is the bad guy in all this. Thanks for listening to the DLJ Experience. Hope to see you next time.